you all for coming here this evening. Today is a very auspicious day for us. We have with us Vrij Bihari Prabhu, and Prabhu requested that he would very happy to introduce himself, and I think that would be a very nice thing for him to do rather than me having to read something out. So before I request him, we will all welcome him by chanting one Hare Krishna Maha Mantra for him. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Vrij Bihari Prabhu ki jai.
I know this sounds kind of, proud to introduce myself, but it's just easier than hearing somebody say good things about me, which is, So anyway, my name is Vrij Bihari Das, and I guess it's good to know a little bit of background about me before I make this presentation today about leading a balanced life. How many, raise your hand if your life is completely balanced? Okay, you came to the right place. Oh, one hand here. No. So I'm from New York originally. And when I was 16 years old, I was working in my mother's law firm after school. And one of the clerks was a devotee of Krishna. So this was 1975. And he started talking to me about Krishna Consciousness. And then he got me all the previous Back to Godhead magazines, and I read Bhagavad Gita. And then he said, "Do you want to go see Prabhupada?" And I said, "Yes, that would be great." So we went to New York. We went to New York City. I grew up in the suburbs. And I didn't talk to Prabhupada, but I saw him at New York Rath Yatra in 1976. And then I went off to university. And it just so happened, by Krishna's arrangement, that the one university I chose had a temple in that city, the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, if you're familiar with your American geography. And so I started going to that temple regularly. And eventually I got so attracted, I dropped out of school. After 2.5 years, I dropped out and just became a monk, a brahmachari. My mother wasn't exactly happy about that, as you can imagine. How many mothers here would be happy if your children became brahmacharis? There's one. Okay. She said it very good. Maybe me. Is your son here? Okay. Do you hear that, son? She's like, no. So, yeah. I come from a Jewish family, which is kind of like a Gujarati family. It's expect you to make a lot of money. Mainly, brahmacharis don't make a lot of money, at least not for themselves. So I did that for 12 years, 11 years as a monk, and mainly distributing books and traveling around America. And then I met my future wife, and actually it's an arranged marriage, because sometimes people ask, how does a monk meet a woman, right? If you're a monk, I could say, well, I wasn't a very good monk, but no, it's actually an arranged marriage, or at least I was introduced to her. And my wife is not American; she's from Ireland. She's Irish, and she's also a devotee of Krishna. And right after we got married, we moved to India, and we lived there for 21 years in Vrindavan. And she was teaching, and she was a teacher before she was a devotee. And then she eventually became principal of the ICSC school, if you're familiar from India. Anyone heard of an ICSC school before? Yes. Yeah. And it was also a Gurukul, so it was spiritual principles and academics. And I was running the Vrindavan Institute for Higher Education. And then by good fortune or by chance, I started getting interested in conflict resolution. And I didn't know anything about it, so I just asked the GBC, the leaders of our society, if I could get $500 so I could buy some books. Anyway, one thing led to another, and I went back to college, and I got into a master's degree program without a bachelor's degree, which is rare, but I had some people who had some pull at the university. And I got interested in that, and it became my profession. And I worked for the Supreme Court in India, training judges and senior advocates in conflict resolution and how to avoid litigation. I traveled to like all the high courts in India. So I did a lot of traveling within India and did that for some time. And then my wife was asked to be the temple president in Washington, D.C. So then we moved back to America about 15 years ago. And she's still the president of the temple. And I worked for the US government instead of the Indian government. And I retired, semi-retired 2.5 years ago, but I still work for NASA. If you heard of NASA, the space rocket people,
Yes.
they have a lot of conflicts. So I still do consulting work with them. And I split my time now between Washington, D.C., 6 months a year, and 6 months in Govardhan, in the new retreat center that Vrij Prabhu and Satyanandan Swami built in Vrindavan. So that's my whole life story. Anyone fall asleep? No. Okay, good. So I thought of different things on what to present today, and because this is a challenge in my life, I thought if I present something about leading a balanced life, then maybe some of it will rub off on me. They say those who can do and those who can't teach. You were going to say something?
Yeah, Prabhuji, can we send the kids for the kids class? Is that okay?
All right. So
The children can go for the children.
to the very end where I say any questions or comments, please, let's make this informal and a conversation rather than, a lecture. Is that all right? Sabtik? I know a little Hindi. My son was born, I should have mentioned, my son was born in Vrindavan, and he went to school, 10+2 in India. Then he went to America to do his university work, and now he's a consultant. And so just a little bit more about my family. So my wife is Irish. I am American, and so my son, his skin is very light, but he's paka 110% Indian. He grew up in India. He likes Kerala and Chile, everything. My daughter-in-law is Gujarati, but she was born and raised in the UK. She doesn't know any Hindi. He's much more Indian than her, even though she looks more Indian, right? So when they go to a shop in Delhi or something, the shopkeeper speaks to her in Hindi, and then he replies. We can't figure it out. So that's yeah. Okay. So finding balance. So Krishna ultimately at the very end of the Bhagavad Gita says, everything I said, forget. In America, in New York, they say, forget about it. And just abandon all of Krishna spoke about so many different aspects of religion in the Gita, and at the end he says, abandon all varieties of religions, just surrender unto me. So we should just be 100% surrendered to Krishna, whatever he wants, 24 hours a day remembering him, no problem. Right? Yes. And surrendering to Krishna, leads to nice things like, the Jagai and Madai, they were people who, they were in big trouble. They did everything wrong in life. They were real bad folks. But when they ultimately surrendered to Lord Chaitanya, they were forgiven. And in this case, if you remember Arjuna, the story about Arjuna when he was practicing archery at night. Oh no, he was practicing. Oh, sorry. I just gave away the punchline. He was eating at night to candlelight. You know this story? Yeah, Yeah. So and the candlelight went out, and he could continue eating. So then he figured, well, if you can continue eating without the lights, then you could also practice archery at night. So he was so surrendered to his art, his job, you could say, his dharma, that he was even, he was so surrendered that he just did it day and night at some point. So, but then Krishna gets a little realistic for folks like us, and he says, okay, if you can't do that, just always think of him. Then, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulated principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. So we do our sadhana, right? Sadhana means practice, right? So we chant, we offer our prasadam, our food to Krishna. We read Bhagavad Gita like that, because Krishna is very practical. He says, this is the goal, but I understand not everyone can do that, so then do this. And then he talks about balance in the 6th chapter especially. And it's not possible for one to become a yogi or Arjuna if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much, or does not sleep. Really practical stuff. Sometimes we think Bhagavad Gita is so heavy theology, but look at this verse. It's very practical, isn't it? You just, yeah. How much sleep should we get per night?
6 hours? 7 hours?
8 hours.
Should we have a vote?
7.5.
7.5. Okay, come on. I like that. You should do my profession. You know. Yes. Well, you know, that's saying there's different shlokas for different folks. So, in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada actually mentions 6 hours, and above that is the mode of ignorance. But other places he says 6 to 8. And when I was in charge of the book distribution in the area in North America where I lived in America, I made sure that anyone who drove a car got 8 hours sleep. Even if they missed some of their sadhana, they had to sleep 8 hours because it's so easy to fall asleep at the wheel and things like that. So this is practical, right? You know, don't eat like for example, they asked me what I wanted. I took a meal before I came here because I have to go back because I'm giving a seminar, all-day seminar tomorrow. So they asked me what would they like me to ask? I said, make some khichdi. Because if I eat too much, I'll fall asleep in the car ride. I'll be like this when I'm speaking. I said, no, you know, khichdi is like, yeah. We're going to talk about khichdi, by the way. There's a lot of lessons you can learn from khichdi. And we're going to talk about that. Okay, so this is good, just simple thing, right? Don't eat too much, don't eat too little, don't sleep. Anyone have the experience when you don't sleep enough, your intelligence doesn't work very sharp?
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't it? It's mentioned in the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam that you're just like, as we would say, spaced out. Or in German, they say, "Ausgespeist." It means same thing, I guess. Yeah. And so the next verse also, he who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So for yogis, you know what's a good recreation? Any thoughts? What do you think? Like or even for devotees, what's some healthy recreation? Walking. You got it. Who said that? That's the exact one that's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Walking. But what else do you do that's good recreation for your health? And nobody does anything. Just eat pakoras all day long.
Play sport.
Play sports. Which one? Cricket. Badminton. Yeah, badminton is a little more. Yeah. I mean, you don't get a lot of exercise in cricket if you're in the outfield, right? Stand all day. Yeah, badminton. What? Anyone else? Yoga. Yoga's right. Do you do yoga? Yes. Oh, yeah. Very good. Yoga is excellent. Gardening. Yeah, that's great. Right. And then you can make some flowers and offer them to Krishna. Yeah, it's beautiful. Gardening is beautiful. Watering plants. And do you water the weeds also? No. Because in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's this analogy is given that, you know, are we watering the weeds in our heart or are we watering the flowers in our heart? Right? Because you ever meet someone who does a lot of complaining? Yeah, you know someone like that? So they sometimes say, what is the saying? They're stepping on flowers and criticizing the weeds. No, they're stepping. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, you know, yeah. So it's good. It's good to think about, you know, one time Prabhupada was asked about what should be our priorities. And it's very interesting what he said. He said, first priority is health, then your spiritual practices, and then different seva that you can offer. Because if your health's no good, you can't do the other two. right? So it's not that we all have to have all the men have to have 6 packs, and things like that, look like some bodybuilder or something. But the taking care of one's health can be seen also as a service to Krishna, right? So Krishna is saying this in the Bhagavad Gita. So eating the right amount, sleeping the right amount, recreation and activities is good. I was telling Prabhuji when we were driving. So it's kind of funny, but the Gurukul, where my wife was in charge, is a Gurukul, but we also had a basketball court in Vrindavan, and we were the national champions of ICSC schools basketball, because I grew up playing basketball, so. But I was also saying that the best father-son conversations I've ever had has been on the basketball court, just when my son and I were just practicing, and it's just such a great kind of atmosphere to have really positive exchanges with him over the years. He's 34 years old now. But yeah, so that was that kind of recreation. Also, it was kind of cool, being the champion. The championship was done in Mysore, and we all went to South India. And anyway, it's kind of nice. Any questions, comments so far? I'm going to keep asking you, but I know we haven't covered much yet. We're just beginning, but any questions or comments so far? Yes, Prabhu. Oh, you're just scratching your ear? No.
No.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking, should I ask a regulation in habit? He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping. So this regulation, and how do we go about it? Because I believe.
How do we go about being regulated?
Yeah.
Don't follow my example. That was one way. So I think we're going to talk about habits later on. About 45 to 50% of our life is habits. Okay? Oops, I hope I don't hear. Right? So when you think about it, it's really behooves us to look at what habits we have in our life. You see? Because habits are powerful, because you don't have to use any willpower. Once you have a habit, it becomes a habit. Right? You wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth. You don't have to think, oh gosh, I just woke up. Now what? Right? I'm sure none of us do that. We have our things. So it's good to kind of like go to the balcony or go in a helicopter and look at how we spend our 24 hours and what habits we have that we. Let me ask you a question. And this is by intrapersonal. No one has to reveal this to anybody else. I'm not going to call on you. But think about this. If you could change one habit in your life that would have the biggest impact on your life, either something that you want to get rid of, or a new habit that you want to acquire, or a habit that you have but it's not so good, and if you really practice it well, and what would that be? The one habit, or it can be 2, that would have the biggest impact on your life if you acquired it or got rid of it. Again, I'm not going to call on anyone. Sometimes this is quite secret stuff, but think about that for 10 seconds. So then the question is, if there is such a thing, why don't we do it? You're asking about habits. Why don't we, as my mom would say, get off your. I saw a Jewish family, so in Yiddish it's your tuchus, your backside. Get off your tuchus and do it. So then the next question would be, people that are the most close to you, whether it's your wife or husband, or your brother and sister, or someone that are your best friend, if they could change one of your habits, what would it be? Think about that. If someone else that's very close to you could say, oh, I really wish you would either acquire this habit or get rid of that habit, what would it be? And again, I'm not going to ask you to. It's just for yourself. Okay, you got that? Then the question is the first one and the second one the same? Interesting. You said no, right?
Both are same.
Both okay. So you're special. Yeah. No. Yes, both are same for some people, and sometimes they're different. Right? Interesting. So habits are really so in bhakti. It's good to have good. It's important to have good habits as much as possible. For example, let's say we chant japa on our beads. As much as practical, doing that the same time every day is helpful. Let me ask you a question. Raise your hand if you your boss wants to have a meeting with you at 4:00. Are you going to be there on time?
Yeah.
Yes, right? We're going to be there on time. It's our boss, right? So we can make an appointment. So we should make an appointment with ourselves sometimes. That's just as important as our boss. 7:00, I'm going to read Bhagavad Gita for 15 minutes. And we do that religiously, just like we would be at 4:00 for our boss. So things like that, we can think about what habits would be healthy. Am I eating healthfully? Right? If you're Gujarati, are you putting sugar in everything? Right? Right? Like that. If you're Bengali, you're having all those sweets. It's like constant Bengali sweets. Right? Or are you, eating, or just everything's fried, right? Or you, like that. So we can look at our eating habits. We can look at, it's nice to be regulated, go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time. Ideally, early, what is that? Early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. So it's actually really good to go to bed early. Traveling around India, spending 21 years there and all, the worst habits I think of people in India, they eat a huge meal late at night. Isn't it? 10:00, 11:00 sometimes? And it's a mountain sometimes. That's the worst, ask any doctor. That's like the worst thing you can do for your health. Like if you're going to sleep still on a full stomach, and it's just like pagal, is that the word? Yeah. It's not very good. So habits, really important stuff. Okay. Thank you for that question. I'll move on, but please think of questions, think of comments. Like I said, it makes it. You see, he asked a really good question, and then So. Even, I'm not saying any of the men here are really fired up now to take sannyas, but there was once a devotee who wanted to just drop everything and travel with Lord Chaitanya. And then Lord Chaitanya quoted this from Lord Brahma, Stanestita Shriti-katam Tanu Bhagmanobir. You don't have to, that's the thing, even though we're talking about changing habits, we don't have to do a major overhaul and this and that. We just have to add Krishna. Add some time to be with Krishna every day, chanting, reading about Krishna, associating with devotees. Association is so powerful. Ravana talks about the great Mahatma Ravana talks about, no, it's a Kamsa. I get confused, but anyway, that humans, we're like crystals, right? If you put a crystal next to something gray, it'll look gray. If you put it next to something red, it'll look red, right? Something blackish, it'll look black. And we are very affected by our association, right? Almost every language in the world has some kind of saying, tell me who you associate with, I'll tell you who you are. We're very affected. And that's why sadhu sangha is so important. And this is all of your sadhus. So coming and having this sangha, it makes a big impression. We were talking about bringing up teenagers. All the people who are teenagers in the room, close your ears. Okay, you're not supposed to hear this, because then you're going to know that your parents' tricks. But seriously, I find one of the most important things is who our children's friends are, right? And if they're hanging out with devotee kids and they're having a good time, and it's fun and interesting and exciting, they'll naturally just want to be devotees. Yeah. Sadhu association is so powerful. Okay, so now we're going to talk about khichdi. Okay, who here is a good cook? Or who let me rephrase that. Who here cooks? Everyone on this end and only a few on this end. Okay. All right. So I want the cooks to look at this next slide and tell me, is this a good, look at it carefully, okay? Look at the next slide carefully. And is this a good recipe for khichdi? You ready?
Yeah.
No, why not? It's very, we're very, Krishna says, Samoham Sarva Bhuteshu, we should be equal to rice and salt. One part salt, one part anger. This would be a disaster, right? Right? It would be a total disaster. Even though it seems very egalitarian, we don't favor, dal more than hing. But no. So the lesson from khichdi is, the goal with a good khichdi is not to have the same amount of each ingredient, but to have the appropriate amount of each. And a balanced life is like a good khichdi. Right? Now let's talk about some lessons that you get from khichdi. Yeah, I'm sure you didn't think you were going to learn lessons from khichdi this evening, but yeah. Okay. So lessons from khichdi. First of all, we know what a good khichdi tastes like, right? Everyone knows what that is. So I think we have an idea of how we really feel when our life is in control, it's balanced, we're really getting enough sleep, eating properly, friendly with our spouse or with our children, and work is going well, all the things, you're, what do they used to say? Firing on all cylinders, unless you have an electric car, and that's different. But, that idea. Okay, so we know what a good khichdi tastes like, and we should have an idea of what a good balanced life looks like. Okay? And the next thing about khichdi is you kind of know when it's gone off. Let's say it's been in the fridge for 2 days and you smell, right? So we should also know when our life is out of balance, right? We're burning, what do they say? Burning the candle at both ends, right? We're working too hard, or and then when we do that with our family members, we're kind of rude, or we're not spending time listening to them, and so many things are kind of haywire. Just as we know when khichdi, okay, let's feed this to the living entities, or throw it out. But so it's good to be actually aware. Oh, things aren't. I got to get back in balance here. Things are kind of going haywire, because sometimes we just keep going until we totally burn out, right? Yeah. And then we think we need a vacation, and then you go on vacation and you really try to have a good time, and then you need a vacation from your vacation, right? 3, do something practical. So a really good cook, like some of you I'm sure is expert cooks, you can experiment a little, right? You can try putting cashews, a little bit more of this spice, a little bit more of that spice. You play around with it, and you can even make a variety of khichris, right? So similarly, we can do that when we're scheduling our life. Okay, well, does getting up early in the morning work for me? Well, it sounds great, but it's not practical because I'm a professional and sometimes I have to make calls to America or something like that, right? Or whatever. And so we try this, we try that, we try eating at this time, we try eating at that time, we try, exercising in the morning, we try exercise. So you play around with how you spend your time and see what works. Okay? And the idea is to start now. The worst saying is "Padme," right? Right, just like, or in Spanish they say "mañana." I'll start tomorrow or the next day, and you just kind of put it off. But if we could really improve especially our spiritual life, by having a good balanced life, we should really consider starting tomorrow morning, making some adjustments. Why not? What do we have to lose? Okay. The immediate goal, we want to know whatever I'm doing now is the right thing to do. That's a really nice, if we feel that throughout our day, whatever I'm doing right now, this is exactly what I should be doing. Right? Because sometimes we're thinking, oh, if only I had done that. Are you familiar with the term mindfulness?
Yes.
Right? So mindfulness is really being in the present. And mindfulness has become big, even in corporate world and also the New Age world, etc., in the last 20 years. But Krishna, 5,000 years ago, spoke about mindfulness. Right? He said, na sochati, na kanchati. Anyone know what those two words mean? 4 words? It means don't lament about the past and don't hanker for the future. And I think I actually have a slide on that coming up in a minute. So, but bhakti happens in the present, right? So when we're chanting, we should chant. Try to keep the mind off from anything else. When we're hearing about Bhagavad Gita. When we're spending time with loved ones, we're not on our phone. You ever see people in a restaurant these days? They're facing each other and they're not talking to each other, they're looking at their phones, right? So, in the 60s, when I grew up, there was a famous book called Be. So be really present. There's also now another, not totally philosophically right, but the idea, the power of now. So questions about Kitri, or the ideas made here so far? You're just scratching your ear? Okay. You never know when someone's scratching their ear or just like.
But you find it difficult to break a particular habit.
And yeah, of course. Good. Bad habits are easy to acquire and make our life worse. Good habits are hard to acquire and make our life better. So we're going to talk about that in a few slides, but just to give you coming attractions. One thing that can help is having an accountability partner. Someone, especially spouses, they love to get on the case of their spouse, right? So they'll say, "Oh, you can't have that second gulab jamun, right? You said you, right? So whatever it is, sometimes. Anyway, we have a whole slide on that, but it's a very good point because some habits are really we've had them for a long time, or they've really become almost second nature, and so it's not easy. You're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not, but just the act of doing it, you really feel like you've climbed a mountain. The feeling one gets when one has actually changed a habit, it's very reassuring. It's very, you also feel often that Krishna really helped you. Yeah. So any other questions that I can't answer? Yes.
You said immediate goals. So because we all are with family and responsibilities, so we have to do something which is not our goal. We have to do that for the sake of the responsibility. So how do we know that we try to do what is good, but at the same time?
So there's things that we have to do we don't necessarily like to do.
Yeah. So for example, in the morning I want to go for a Mangalava Aarti, but at the same time I have to go to office or send this to the school.
Well, Krishna says, karma ne parikaraste mafaleshu kadashana. We have to do our duties. There's 2 kinds of duties. There's what we call conditioned duties, means going to work, all that. And then there's constitutional duties, which means our relationship with Krishna. So as much as possible, all those things that we have to do, right? We try to find a way to connect them with Krishna. For example, you have to go to work, okay, but you give some fruit, some donation or something of that work to Krishna, like that. And then you see the connection. Or, taking care of the children. Okay, well, gosh, I have to drive them to soccer practice or whatever it is, or cricket practice. I'd rather be, chanting Hare Krishna, right? But no, I'm bringing them up as devotees. And this is, so we try to make that connection as much as possible. Because we can't not everyone is a brahmachari or a sannyasi who can just life like that. But there's Chesta, little Sanskrit here, there's Chesta Rupa and Bhava Rupa. By the way, when do we go until midnight?
Yes.
8:45, 8:45, then there are questions.
Gotcha. Okay, well, we're doing questions all in between. Okay, just checking. Sorry, I just want to make sure. Chestarupa is the activity, and bhava, you know that word bhava. That's the mood of devotion. So we, just like you're cooking, you can cook, okay, but then you add the bhava that no, I'm going to offer this to Krishna, and it becomes spiritualized. So we try as much as possible to connect our life as much as possible, but it's not perfect. Is that all right? Okay, are you comfortable there?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, we want to make sure you're comfortable. If you're not comfortable, we don't care. Okay, so these may be some of the different aspects of our life, right? Spiritual practices, health. At the end of every letter, Prabhupada wrote, I hope this meets you in good health. Isn't that nice? We may do some outreach, teaching of Krishna consciousness, our finances, our family, some service at the temple or to other devotees, our work, our friends, our intellectual pursuits in life, relaxation. And I'll tell you a story about that in a second. Also alone time. And so many of us, I think if we're honest, we often fill up alone time with scrolling, right? But it's actually very healthy. We have a psychologist here. It's very healthy to have some time when you're just with your thoughts, and of course, if you're a devotee, with your thoughts with Krishna, and just taking some downtime, as it were, and getting enough sleep. The relaxation story is because sometimes somebody will think like Prabhupada was such a pure devotee. Did he have any human aspects? So one time he was returning from Africa and he flew into Kolkata now, and they asked him for his yellow fever certificate. And he said, oh no. And he knew that he would be quarantined. And so because he's a sadhu and everything, they gave him quite a nice quarantine, right? And he spent 6 days there. And on the 7th day, he told his servant, call the temple, my yellow fever certificate's in the Almirah, and tell them to bring it. So he could have gotten out in one day, but he just needed a little break. He just did a world tour. He's 78 years old at the time, something like that. And he just needed a little downtime. So I thought that was always kind of nice. So we also, remember it said, temperate in our habits of eating, sleeping, working, and recreation. So we can find recreation that is directly connected with Krishna, or at least is not against Krishna consciousness, because we do need that in our lives. And if you have any questions, let me know. So here's just a suggestion. You can track your time for a week and see how you take your time. Everyone I've ever suggested this to, because you can go on Google and just type in time log, and you can print one out and just every hour or two just fill it in. Even for 3 days is fine, or 2 days. And how we think we spend our time and how we actually spend our time, it's not exactly the same usually, right? Especially when you think, oh, I just spent an hour just, spacing out on the internet, right? That's so easy to do, isn't it? Right? Or go through TikTok or Instagram, or if you're my age, Facebook, like that. Right? Yes, Prabhu.
I have a question then. So what should I be doing instead of waiting?
That's up to you. I can give you a Krishna conscious answer to that. And that would be, especially recommended is hearing and chanting about Krishna. So whether it's listening to a pravachan of Srila Prabhupada or your favorite speaker, or whether it's reading Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, or whether it's picking up our beads, or whether it's going to the temple, those are ideal. There's something called Panch Anga Bhakti. So what does Panch mean? 5. Anga means like limb or aspect, and Bhakti we know. And these consider the most potent, powerful items. And one is chanting, one is reading Shastra or hearing, a pravachan. Deity worship, if we have deities like these beautiful Gornitai deities here, associating with devotees, and being in a holy place or making our home a holy place. Right? That's also so even simple things like keeping our house clean, keeping our car clean. Someone was giving me a ride a few weeks ago, and they just said, "Yeah, I'll give you a ride. Just wait 15 minutes." Do you know why? Yeah, clean the car. Yeah. So even things like just being clean is something that's important because it's the mode of goodness. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, "Sattva," which means goodness, "sanjayate jnanam." One sees with knowledge when they're in the mode of goodness. So is that helpful?
Yes.
Yeah. But beyond that, I think we all kind of have an idea. Is doom scrolling really good for our consciousness? Reading, okay, every aspect of the Iran war, right, or whatever, right? I'm sure in your field, people have mental health issues sometimes because of social media and things like that. Yeah. So that might be a good example. Or spending time criticizing other people, right? And blaming the world, I told you my wife was a school principal, so when somebody did a big boo-boo, big problem, the teacher would call her in and she would say, "Who did this?" And every kid goes. Everyone, right? So I think we know, and it's especially bad to criticize those who are trying to be spiritual people because they're connected with Krishna, right? So we don't want to do that. We can objectively say, well, that thing that devotee did was not the best thing in the world, but then to kind of write confirm. That's all right. It's confirmed by the ringtone. I usually allow only everyone can have their phone on as long as their ringtone is a cow. Then it's all right. It reminds me of Vrindavan. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Very good. So, yes, are we making khichdi or do we have more turmeric than rice? And balance is kind of like learning how to ride a bicycle. So here, I did these questions. I didn't do the last question. Of my existing habits, which would I like to see my children, disciples, godbrothers, or god-sisters adopt or not? So if you're a parent, you could think, or actually, even if you're a teenager, you can think when you become a parent, of my existing habits, which ones would I like my loved ones to acquire, or which ones would I like my loved ones to not acquire? Again, we're not going to ask you to, but it's an interesting thing to think about. Right? Interesting thing to think about. Prabhupada once said that a devotee is thoughtful. Right? So it's good to be a little thoughtful about our life. That's why I chose to make this presentation tonight. Just to take a look at how we spend our 24 hours. And are we really happy with that? Or are we happy with 75% of it, but 25% not so much? And see if we want to make some changes. And Krishna will help us. We're all here where we have interest in Krishna consciousness. Even if we think it's so hard, how do I going to break this habit? Krishna says, Yoga Shema Maham Yaham. To my devotees, I preserve what you have, I carry what you lack. And a beautiful way to meditate, if you're thinking, how can I meditate on Krishna? Listen to this. I hope I don't talk too fast because I'm from New York. We talk twice as fast as any American does. You can just meditate on Krishna in two ways. He's all powerful and he's all loving. Right? He's definitely all powerful. Just like I was looking this up in the great guru in the sky, ChatGPT. And there's 24 with 21 zeros after it number of planets in this universe. It's huge, right? 25. I don't even know what that is. 21 zeros, right? And according to our Shastra, this is one of the smaller universes. So it's anyone here cook with mustard? Know what a mustard seed is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's sometimes said in a bag of mustard seeds, if each one of the mustard seeds represented a universe, that's how many universes there are. It's like, right, mind-boggling. But even just with the, as I work for NASA, I mentioned, so even the telescopes that NASA's come up with, it's mind-boggling what's out there. And then it said that the material world is only 1/4 the size of the spiritual world. So go figure. So Krishna is so powerful. He's so great. And he loves his devotees. So that's a really nice combination to meditate on, because if someone was all powerful but not all loving, what happens if they have a bad day at the office? Watch out, world, right? And if someone is all loving but not all powerful, they'd be nice people to hang out with, but they can't necessarily do something to help you so much. But Krishna can really help us. He can take the coal-like heart that we have, and you ever see, I'm totally giving away my age now, Superman would take the coal, crush it, and then a diamond appears. Right? So Krishna can do that with us. Take? All right, so here's some tips. We can, if we're about our habits, we can actually monitor them. Right? Let's say you were going to read Bhagavad Gita for 15 minutes. You can keep a calendar. You check off the days that you do it. Right? Schedule it. I already talked about that. Right? You put it in your schedule. Almost everyone now uses a Google calendar or the Apple one, or whatever Calendly, whatever software you use these days, and you schedule it. Okay, japa. Reading, right? Spending time with my children, whatever it is, do it. Schedule it and do it. And we talked about accountability. Have someone encouraging you, and also maybe getting on your case when you don't do it, right? Commit time to develop. It takes time to develop a new habit. Usually about 60 days, plus or minus. So don't think it's going to happen, overnight. But 60 days goes pretty fast. And start small, right? Everyone, I'm sure it's the same thing in Australia as in America, that the gyms are all full in January and empty by March, right? Because everyone has this huge to-do list of New Year's resolutions. It's better to start small and build up your kind of habit-forming muscle. Right? Here's a simple one. Now, maybe you already do this, but a simple one if you don't do this. But they say it's like one of the key habits, believe it or not, is make your bed in the morning. Simple thing, right? And if worse comes worse, you have a terrible day, at least you come home to a made bed. Right? Nothing else. A little thing like that, right? And we could, of course, think of spiritual things. I think spiritually, one of the most powerful things that we can do is right when we wake up, think of one or two, and I'm sure you teach this, and it's such a psychologically powerful thing. Think of one or two things you're grateful for. It's very hard to be angry, fearful, ticked off at people when you're thinking of what you're grateful for. Isn't it? Gratitude. Gratitude is the bridge between material and spiritual consciousness. It's the bridge. So it's really a really good habit to wake up in the morning and think of one or two things that we're grateful for. It's very, very powerful. And of course, for devotees, a lot of times we'll say, I'm grateful for Krishna's holy name. I'm grateful that Prabhupada came at such an old age to come to the West and teach about Krishna, whatever. But gratitude is so powerful. Am I barking up the right tree? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So that's a great thing. Wake up in the morning and think. And what you don't do when you wake up in the morning is, what's the first thing you should not do that many people do when they wake up in the morning? Very good. Ekdam pakka. Yes. Yes. Look at our phone. Because you get that nasty email from your boss, and then especially if it's your habit to chant Hare Krishna in the morning, and you're just thinking, Hare boss, I hate his guts. like that, right? So if the world is not going to collapse if you put off looking at your phone for a couple of hours. One of my friends, his name is Gauranga Das. He lives in Mumbai, kind of a famous devotee. He's written some books. And he says you should protect your 9 to 9. 9 at night till 9 in the morning. Get a good rest, and then don't look at your phone until 9 in the morning. Now, of course, practically we may not, our job or something, but the idea is not right in the morning. God, because it's a good chance you're going to read something that disturbs you, even if it's something positive, right? It's, I'm so old. I'm so old. It's usually the part of a joke. So then someone says, "How old are you?" No, but I remember there weren't any computers, there weren't any smartphones, and I was living in Vrindavan, and life was so simple. There was nothing else to do except go to the temple, pick up my beads, and read the Bhagavatam. Even the newspapers were in Hindi, and I couldn't read them. So it was great. I didn't know what was going on in the world. Someone asked me, "Who's the president of the United States?" We don't have to go that far. But the point is, if we could put off, and if you put it off and you do some spiritual activities, then when you pick up your phone, you're going to react very differently. Because you're going to be in good consciousness, you're going to be more sattvic. And then you can deal with the good and the bad news that you might find in your emails or your social media, feeds. But if you do it right in the morning, it's just a guarantee. It's just a, so, and they, they say, don't try not to look at screens the last hour before you take rest, and don't keep your phone near your bed. These are all kind of good things. I'm a little bit of a fanatic, so forgive me, but I bought on Amazon one of these things where you put your phone in it and then you lock it and you set it for a timer, because I know my tendency is to want to look at that phone, right? So let's say I go to bed at 9 and I'll set it if I set it for 10 hours, I can't look at my phone unless I want to break the thing, and so I have 10 hours of no, and it's so peaceful that I just, I'm not saying you have to do what I do, but I just find then at 7, when I first did it, I have to confess, I was like waiting down 10 seconds, F9, but now it's just, whatever.
Does it get switched off?
What?
Phone?
Can you switch it off? If you have sense, if you're controlled like you are, then you can switch it off and just not look at it till 7 o'clock. But I just want to turn it back on, and so this way I just don't even think about it. But I'm not. But the point being, try not to. If you can think of things you're grateful for and not look at your phone right in the morning, boy, you have a great start to the day. It's a great start to the day. Very powerful. Teak? Anything? Okay, more tips. It's sometimes good to change habits away from your day-to-day, routine, because you're so into a routine. So when you go on vacation or you go to India or you go to the holy places, it's sometimes a really good time to work on habits. And then you can bring back that new habit to your home. And I already quoted this, right? Bad habits are easy to create, but make life harder. Good habits are harder to create, make life easier. And what to do when you slip. You should feel guilty for the next 3 days and beat yourself up and feel terrible and drown yourself in jalebis. Or something like that, right? Whatever. I like Gujarati foods. I would drown myself in dal dokali. That's my favorite. Dal dokali is I'll go all the way to Gujarat just to have dal dokali. Yeah. No, we just pick ourselves up and get back. Matter of fact, even in the book called The Nectar of Instruction, which that's English for the Upadekshamrita, it says you don't have to do any counteraction of bad things. Just pick up your bhakti again. Right, so if you slip, say, "Kya kare? What to do?" And to keep going. And sometimes it does help to write down your commitments. Writing down. I mean, does anyone remember how to use a pen? Pen and paper? Yeah, have you ever used that in your life? Oh, yeah. Okay, congratulations. Sometimes, and keeping a journal, by the way, very healthy mental health thing, and keeping a journal, especially for some reason, it's good to use write with your pen. Somehow it seems to be more beneficial. The only thing is you can't, put a password on your journal. Yeah, that way, because we sometimes want to be quite honest when we're journaling, and we don't want anyone else to read it. Right? There's more, but any questions, comments now?
If guilt comes, then what to do? Because I get that. Too.
You get guilt. Okay, well, let's talk.
I feel it when if I haven't followed my routine, or I delayed something because of procrastination, sometimes that happens. But but eventually I tend to do what I need to do, but it takes me a few hours.
But the guilt is there.
But when I'm wasting of time or something, if I can't do it, then I feel guilt.
Okay, so let's talk about the difference between shame and guilt. Okay, guilt can be healthy in the definition that I'm going to use. Guilt can be healthy, shame not healthy. Guilt is I made a mistake. Shame is I am a mistake. You see the difference? Guilt is, yes, this particular activity that I did, that wasn't very good. But shame gets much worse when we just think everything about me is bad. And that's not, healthy for anyone. Let's speak of people who are spiritual aspirants. So we see in, what's the example I was thinking? Oh yeah, in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a discussion of a great devotee who made a mistake. And Prabhupada mentions that guilty feelings come naturally into the heart of a sincere person. You're obviously a sincere person, so it's natural. But so it's good to feel bad about it, fix it, and then get on with life, and especially get on with our bhakti. Because in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Dhyayato visaya pumsang sangas teshu bhajayate. When we meditate on something, we kind of end up doing it. Most things in this world go from subtle to gross, right? It just, your mind starts thinking of a little something, but eventually you start really getting attached to it and you end up doing it, right? So let's say it was something, I drank 3 beers. Now I don't drink beer, but let's just say I did that, right? And then I say, I feel so bad. That beer, and it was beer, and I'm just beer, and I'm meditating on the beer. I just want to drink more beer. So it's okay to say, okay, yeah, that was really dumb. I shouldn't drink any beer from now on. It's just mango lassi, and or whatever. And then okay, let's go for mango lassi from now on. But if I just meditate on the beer, I become attached to it, according to what Krishna says in the Gita. So, and there's a nice story of Prabhupada, and one of his very first disciples, his name was Satsvarup Maharaj, and he was Prabhupada's secretary. And Prabhupada dictated a letter, so he typed it out, and in the letter it says, enclosed is such and such. So the secretary typed the letter, sent it out, but he forgot to put the enclosure, right? So Prabhupada found out about this. He wasn't happy because it made him look bad, right, in front of this person. He said, so what are you going to do about it? And Satsvarup Maharaj said, Prabhupada, I'm so full and I'm just a terrible secretary. What are you going to do about it? Prabhupada, you should find someone else to do. I'm just terrible. What are you going to do about it? I'm going to write a letter apologizing and say it was my fault and put the enclosure. And then Prabhupada said, perfect. And he didn't mention it ever again, right? So that's kind of a good example. Instead of just, move on. Yeah.
The same line I would to ask,
Do you want to use the mic? I forgot to hand it to her.
No, that's it.
Well, so people for the next 10,000 years.
As you just have mentioned that if we think about something, we still want to do that. For same,
Sometimes,
most of the time. So for example, I wasn't using mobile before because I never feel like doing that. But
Okay.
as I feel more everybody says not to use, not to use, not to use. I use it.
Well, yeah, okay. Yeah.
So now what, like, as you said, like how to get detached with that emotions, how to, because if I say not to use it,
well,
it feel like doing more.
do you have children?
Yes.
How old are they?
12 and 11.
So remember that as they become teenagers. The more you tell them not to do something, they're going to definitely do that. Okay, so just remember that, that they're like you in that sense. Yeah. With mobile, by the way, mobile phones, they're a great servant and a terrible master. So if we use them intelligently, they can be very helpful, right? But if we let them take control of our life, and it does to so many people. So, but it's interesting how we are belligerent like that, right? And Prabhupada said that about children. He said, you don't want to force them to do spiritual activities like chant japa. He said, otherwise they'll grow up to resent Krishna consciousness. So we have to make it attractive to them, so they want to, and hang out with friends, and it's a fun thing to do. But sometimes, chant, then they just, traumatized spiritually for life, like that. So I don't know if I answered your question, but is that all right? No. What was your question? I'm trying to.
If I don't, as if I said, I was not keen too much in the mobile or
Right.
any Facebook or any Instagram.
Right, but now you.
But because everybody's keep on saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it.
Yeah.
I feel like to doing it more.
Yeah, so that's what. Yeah, so I did answer that. Yeah, so we have to. Well, first of all, we have to see what we want to do, and not what everyone's telling us to do. Even becoming a devotee of Krishna is kind of swimming against the current, isn't it? Right? I'm sure some people say, "No onions, garlic. What's the matter with you?"
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to go to do this. You want to go do that. You just want to go to the temple. What gives? It used to be so much fun to be around, right? I think some people may have experienced that, right, in life. So yes. So we have to choose who we want to hang out with and who we want to take advice from, and whose advice we're actually going to follow. Yeah. Okay. Other questions, comments? So we'll move on a little bit. So symptoms of unbalance. We're feeling kind of empty in our life, or lacking a taste for Krishna consciousness. That can happen. We get easily annoyed or irritated. You ever have that in your life? Yeah. You just snap at people because you didn't get enough sleep, or you ate too little or too much, or your blood sugar is low or your blood sugar is high, or whatever it is, right? Feeling just depleted. And the first bullet is similar to this. The last bullet is similar to the second one. Just not dealing well with others. Yeah, so these are symptoms that we're out of balance, and instead we should become balanced. All right. So, other comments, questions, thoughts? How are we doing? We're doing all right time-wise?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All
We
right.
still have a lot of time, if you like.
Well, it's up to y'all. Y'all. That's a real American saying. Yes, Prabhu.
Who will assess or judge that's a good habit or a bad habit?
Oh, very good. Very good question. Who assesses whether the habit...
And the next question is,
Okay, one at a time, because I'm very...
yeah, it's related to, is it a good or the better or the best habits?
What's
The habit can be a good or can be relatively better or the best.
Okay. Well, I mean, so who decides? Well, sometimes society decides, right? Killing somebody else, bad. Right? Helping an old person across the street, good. Right? So there's some kind of universal things, okay? But then it depends on what the goal of your life is, what you want to, I don't mean to sound so lofty, but what we want to do with our life. So if we're devotees of Krishna, then we have a certain set of what we consider good or bad. right? And if we're just, you're a person who's not interested spiritually and is kind of, someone told me people in Australia are interested in the 3 B's: beer, barbecue, and beach. Thank you. Very good. I forgot about the beach. Yeah. So that might be, and so they will consider good habits based on those desires. And we obviously, especially the barbecue and the beer, we wouldn't have that. We would have that enlisted in one of our, like, don't let's not go there, right? So it does. But the Bhagavad Gita, the reason the Bhagavad Gita is there is to let Krishna's letting us know what he thinks are good and bad, right? And a matter of fact, sometimes what comes up sometimes in Hinduism in general, and even in our Sangha, is what is free will and what is destination? Right? You ever heard that one before?
Yeah.
Right? What is free will? Here's a nice way to explain it. Let me sure I get it right. Height is karma, weight is free will. That makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so it's a nice way to maybe look at it. But another way to explain, by the way, I hope I'm still answering your question. I'm getting a little detoured. But when you get on an airplane, like I'm flying to Brisbane next week, okay? So, barring some total disaster, once I'm in the plane and it takes off, it's destined to go to Brisbane. I can't change that. I can't say, no, you know what? I'd rather go to Perth. Can we make a left-hand turn? They're not gonna do that, right? But while I'm on the airplane, I have a lot of free will. Even though it's destined to go to Brisbane, I can talk to the person next to me. I can sleep. I can read a book. I can, eat a meal, right? I have free will within that. So that's a nice way to look at. We do have some destiny, like, for example, our height. You guys are twins, right? Did you both fill out a form when you were, before you were born, saying, I want to be born from these parents who live in this place, there's this social economic background? Did you fill out a form like that? No? You don't remember that? Yeah. So, there's certain things that are destined, of course, according to our karma. But we do have free will. Otherwise, why have a Bhagavad Gita? If there was no free will, why have Krishna say, do this, don't do that? That's getting back to your question, right? So, and Krishna, if you ever study writing, Krishna uses, what's the word? Contrast a lot. Like he'll say, Mogasya Moga Karmana, Moga Jnana Vichetasa, that if you don't become connected with God, everything kind of goes south, eventually goes bad, right? And then he says, but the Mahatmas, they are happy, they're connected with Krishna. So Krishna, throughout the Gita, says, this will make you happy, this will not make you happy. But then what is the last thing he tells Arjuna? He says, do what you wish to do. He doesn't put a gun to Arjuna's head and say, surrender, right? One of his last statements is, now I've explained everything to you. Now, yatachachi tatakuru. Now you do what you wish to do. So he gives us right and wrong, but he also does not interfere with free will. And without you need free will to love. Love is a choice. You can't hold a gun to someone's head and say, love me, right? It's free will. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah. And then in terms of a hierarchy of good, better, best, that's sometimes explained in Shastra. His pastimes in Vrindavan are the best. Mathura and Dwarka, the next best, and Vaikuntha, the next, but they're all best. They're all spiritual. Teek? Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Great question. What else?
Can I have one more?
Yes, you can have one more. You can have one more.
To Hare Krishna, everyone.
That was very kind.
To get put in place for good habits to your associates, say family members for this instance,
Yeah.
is it better to just free will, or sometimes little bit of impose is better?
Yes, well, that depends on the relationship,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, if it works, great, right? Yeah, if it works, just like there's this verse, Yena Kena Pakarina Manasa Krishna Niveshat, and it's somehow or other think of Krishna, whatever it takes. So in certain circumstances, often one of the best ways to change someone, have you ever tried to change someone else? Is it easy to do?
No.
Oh, all the women are talking about their husbands. Because they said no. But one of the main things, and this is when my wife teaches parenting courses a lot, because she's brought up 1,000 children as a school principal, and she says the best thing you can do to help your children decide to become devotees is to be a good example, and just be happy in Krishna consciousness yourself, and then they'll want to be happy like you. But if you're like, oh, I got to chant my rounds, or you're watching television while you're chanting and checking out the stock market and all those things, then the kids have great hypocrisy radar. And they immediately, I've seen my son, if I just glance at my computer and I'm chanting, he says, Pitta. He calls me Pitta. Pitta. What the heck? You give all these classes on chanting, and what do you think? So often setting a good example. That's what Krishna says. Yad achadati chestas in the beginning of the third chapter. He says that whatever a great person does, everyone else follows. So a lot of it, or there's that saying, "What you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying." Right? So, and if we want to change someone else, if we are setting that example, then it's going to be much easier to change someone because we're not a hypocrite. We're walking our talk. Right? But in some relationships, it depends on the relationship. And also the culture. Like as we're talking husband and wife, in some cultures, it's very much the wife just wants to do what the husband says, or vice versa in other cultures. So it depends. There's no exact thing, but setting a good example is universal. Is that all right? And also praying to Krishna, because as much as we struggle changing people, Krishna can change. And I've seen, like, for example, parents, really praying that their child will do this or do that, and sometimes I say, wow, Krishna inspired the child because the parents are praying so hard. Okay? Yeah?
Thank you.
What else? Yes? Here. You have a mic with it? Oh.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for your class. Just we talk a lot about using mobiles, and everybody has got mobiles now. Anything we can use the mobile to improve our Krishna consciousness?
Is there ways?
Yeah.
Sure. Like all of Prabhupada's 1,000 classes are all just a few clicks away, for example, right? And if you go to, what is it, ISKCON there's like 10,000 pravachans. That's like, so that's good. It's also good, by the way, to make phone calls. I know it's hard to believe. Actually, it still works for that. So yes, using things in Krishna's service. There's that app called Transcendence, I think it's called, that devotees have put together. So, and then there's just practical things, right? I don't know what Australia is like, but in India, right, you can do everything with Paytm, right? It's just a click away, and there you take a picture of the QR code, and everything's electronic now, and don't even need to carry cash with you at all. Practically in India, blink it, delivers some minutes, right? If you're familiar with India at all, and these things, so it can be used sometimes to save time and things for hearing and chanting. But it's a very, very sharp double-edged sword, because it can really waste your time. It can really put you into, anyway, there's so many studies. Prabhuji's a psychologist, so he knows all about these things. But there's so many studies about, the effect of social media, especially on teenagers, and the whole, comparison culture. And I mean, do you really care what kind of pizza your friend just ate? But they had to take a picture of it and they send it out there. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like most things in the world. We can dovetail them in Krishna consciousness. The dove is a very beautiful bird, but we can also crowtail. A crow's a very ugly bird, right? So we can. It's an incredibly powerful thing, right? Because it can put us in deep Maya or deep Krishna consciousness. So, therefore, I recommend we use them carefully. Is that all right? Yeah?
Yeah.
We have, no, time's up. Yes. So thank you so much. I was so happy when I got the invitation from Prabhuji to come here this evening and spend time with you. And I'm teaching a course starting tomorrow on conflict resolution. And if you're one of the people attending, that's great. Otherwise, if you ever want to listen to the recordings on that, ISKCONresolve.in. And then you have to keep scrolling down. But if you keep scrolling down enough, you click on the Foundations course, and then you can actually, the PowerPoint is there, the lectures are there and everything. But because conflict is very prevalent in Kali Yuga, right? Kali Yuga, it's like, when people say, you mean you have a job just dealing with conflicts? I say, yeah, it's a growth industry. It's Kali Yuga. So it's not unusual that there's conflicts. Even in an organization like ISKCON, there's conflicts. Every organization has conflicts. I've worked for the US government, worked for the Supreme Court in India, NASA, so many different organizations. They all have conflicts. What makes a good organization compared to a not so good organization, how you deal with the conflicts, right? Because actually dealing with them there's a lot of friendship at the end of when conflicts are dealt with nicely. So that's what I'll be teaching the next 2 days. And like I said, if you can't make it, there's a recording of all of those on ISKCONresolve.in. I can send Prabhuji the link. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
So, Hare Krishna. So, yesterday morning when Gopa Vrindesh Prabhu, I came across him and during Guru Puja, and then he very casually came to me and said, Vrij Bihari Prabhu is here, and would you like to invite him to your Bhakti Vriksha? And I was like, immediately I latched on and said, yes, definitely, why not? And so happy that this happened for all of us, and that Prabhu is here today, and he has given such a nice presentation and so many knowledge bites, small bites of lot of information this evening on how to balance our life in both spiritual and Krishna is all our material desires towards Krishna. So I think that everybody had some of the other learnings, especially the teenagers and the grihasthas and the moms and the fathers.
That's everybody.
And, yes, and yeah. And the personally, for me, the point I noted was that Prabhu has aged so gracefully, and that is something I would like as a takeaway for my own self, to age gracefully.
He's calling me an old man.
Prabhu actually revealed his age, so I don't know, he said a diamond jubilee. So
67 is the new 50.
So yes, and I'm very thankful to Prabhu for he had a very long day today. He went to the farm, the Geelong farm. So farm is like a 3 hours drive one way, coming back again, and then again just 1 hour drive one way. And the next 2 days, as Prabhu has already mentioned, it's a full-on presentation class on conflict resolution. My personal recommendation is to personally attend this. This class is at Wyndham Center in the West. Okay.
Sorry,
You all
no
know.
budget.
Huh?
Saturday, no budget.
9:30 a.m. Though Prabhu has given a website, I'm very sure, given our various constraints, we are not going to log on to it, scroll all the way down and hear it. It is now or never. Saturday, Sunday,
It's not-
just join that class.
Saturday is one course. Saturday is the main one.
Saturday is the main one. Let's see, tomorrow morning, 9:30, Wyndham. Please go there if you can. There is a registration process. So if you decide to do that, please register. Let me know and I can send you that link.
Or you can show up
Yeah. So let us.
with a bribe. I live in India.
So let us give our best wishes, our prayers to Prabhu that he continues this what he likes, and he's contributing so much in Srila Prabhupada's mission, and by chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra for him with all your deepest blessings and best wishes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Again,
So I
for
think I
giving
should
us
go
your
because I have
association. Yes, Himal Prabhu will guide him. And there is a Gaurav Prabhu. Can you call Gaurav Prabhu, please? An envelope. 2 minutes, Prabhuji.
How are you guys? Did you fall asleep? Good sign.